Hey everybody, First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. We have a huge number of people watching tonight. We're multi-streaming this, by the way, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. And pretty impressive. We've got about 3,700 people watching on my Facebook page, several hundred on YouTube and on the station page as well. So welcome everybody. Obviously, the topic tonight is this winter event heading our way, and I'll get into what I think is going to happen, what might not happen, and kind of lay it out there for you. So let's start with first things first, winter weather advisory, which was issued this afternoon. Now, a couple things about this. I'll pop this up full screen. First question I got today was about this. What's up with Anson and Richmond counties as Chester counties? This is a weird thing. Weather Service offices have to collaborate to issue these. Trust me, the winter weather is not going to stop at the county line. I likely expect all these to be under winter weather advisory. And just a heads up, the areas in here, there's nothing that couldn't say this could be upgraded to a winter storm warning. And this is really important because in the last couple of years, we've had events where we've been under a winter storm watch and we go to a winter storm or winter weather advisory and people think that's a downgrade. That's actually an upgrade. Winter storm watch is the lowest. It's the ingredients there for winter weather. Based on the totals and the type of winter weather, it can either be upgraded to a winter weather advisory or all the way up to a winter storm warning. So don't think if you go from a winter storm watch to a winter weather advisory, it's a downgrade. It's not. It's actually an upgrade. So don't be surprised if a winter storm warning is issued at some point for other areas across, especially the I-40 corridor. So let's go to the radar and satellite together. Another question I've been getting a lot today, and this is a weird thing I think in the Carolinas, and I don't know how this started, but it probably started with somebody saying it on TV 10, 20, 30 years ago. Everyone asked me, where's the storm coming from? Well, that's kind of a complicated and loaded question, honestly, because the storm is coming at us in a couple pieces. There's a piece of energy there, a piece of energy there. The moisture's coming in from the south, and the low is going to form here, and the cold air is going to come in from the north. So it isn't like the storm's actually forming somewhere and heading our way. It's kind of forming over us. And the reason I say that is there's old folklore. People around here will tell you that storms have to come from the south. But the thing is, cold air doesn't come from the south. Cold air comes from the north. And most of our storm systems come in the jet stream, which come in from the northwest or the southwest. The only thing that comes in from the south is the moisture, which comes for every storm comes from the south. So I think maybe people think the storm has to start down here and go up here, and maybe they're referring to a Miller A setup, which is a form of a coastal low that forms here and moves up this direction. And that's kind of our typical nor'easter. Now that does produce snow, but it's not the only way we get snow. In fact, we can get snow probably a handful of different ways. But one thing that we need to get snow is we need to get cold air in here first, and we need a pretty strong low pressure system. And right now, some of those ingredients are starting to come together. And we can see them on the water vapor loop. This upper level disturbance is kind of key. You can see it here, this little dip in the jet stream. This little piece of energy is dropping down here into the subtropical jet stream, and that's going to help form our low here. That's a really key part of this that is going to set the stage for the potential snow that's heading our way. So let me get right to the radar real quickly and just show you where the moisture is now. You can see a big bunch of moisture to our south. Don't expect anything to really happen overnight. This is going to start cranking up during the day tomorrow in the morning hours. So let me pull up the FUTURECAST here, because this is all everybody wants to see. So let's look at the FUTURECAST coming together. Here comes our system. Notice how things start to set up. Our low starts to form here, but see this upper level system and that snow there? That's a key part. Watch as this whole thing shifts to the east and reforms, and notice what happens to that stuff over Wichita and Oklahoma City. Notice how it kind of merges in with it. And as we get closer to us, this is 7 o'clock Thursday morning. We go through the morning, and again, I joked about this earlier. Don't get up tomorrow morning and go, Brad, where is the snow? It's raining right now. It's not supposed to snow in the morning. Okay, let me just lay it out there. Unless you live in Asheville West, you're not going to see snow in the morning. You're likely going to see rain at 11 a.m. And it's probably going to be rain for a couple hours before it transitions to snow. So don't be fooled by the fact that we've got a system coming in tomorrow that it has to happen in the morning. This is going to start as rain for all of us. And this leads to some big time issues with people trying to leave all at once, because here's what happens as we go through the day. I'm going to play this forward a little bit here. We're going to go to about noontime. I'll stop this at noon. Notice what happens. We're starting to see snow break out. Now, it could take a little bit longer, give or take a couple of hours, but the snow will work its way from northwest to southeast across the area. I'll play this out a little bit further, and I will take this full screen. Don't worry in a second. I'm going to stop this at 2 o'clock. I'm going to pop this up full screen for you. And you can see the snow at 2 o'clock is pretty much right over us. And notice temperatures just above the freezing mark. So the snow is going to pick up about the typical time that schools let out on Thursday. Now, I don't know for 100% sure, but as of right now, I would tell you probably most areas could get home fine because the roads will be wet, the snow will be coming down, but it's likely not going to stick to the roads immediately. So there's going to be a window of a couple hours where it's going to be falling from the sky, sticking on grassy surfaces, bushes, trees, car tops, the typical things. The ground is about 50 degrees right now, so a lot of this will be melting initially. Now, here's the thing. Warm ground can only do you so much. Just like on a hot summer day, it could be 95 degrees outside. The pavement can be scorching hot. You take a whole cooler full of ice and dump it on there, it's not going to melt immediately. It's going to take a while. That can happen with these snow events. Even though the ground is warm, if it snows heavy enough and we get a quick burst, especially with sleet mixed in, it will still stick to the roads briefly, especially bridges and overpasses. It just can't melt fast enough. So that's why I think after 2 o'clock, things will probably be okay, but they could go downhill pretty quickly because the snow rates actually pick up. And this is where you start to see, snowfall rates really ramp up here. And so by 4 o'clock, temperatures are getting precariously close to freezing. They're still above freezing, 34, 33, 35, but they're not at the freezing mark. We get towards the beginning of the rush hour, it starts getting dark. The sunset tomorrow, let me double check here, is around 6:11 p.m. So if we get close to sunset, which is going to be right about here, notice the snow is still around and we actually have temperatures pretty close to the freezing mark. So this is where roads will probably start to get a little bit slick because it's been snowing for a couple hours. Even the melting snow is starting to cool the ground because the heat from the ground is going into melting snow. It's losing heat through that process. So it will start to cool off. The air temperatures start to cool, and certainly bridges and overpasses start to get dicey around maybe 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock. Notice some temperatures here getting really close to the freezing mark. So if you're wondering about roads during the daylight hours, I don't think they'll be all that bad. I really think it's once we get closer to 6 o'clock when the temperature starts to cool that things become a little more problematic. And then the real big problems occur overnight. I'm going to stop this at about midnight. The temperatures are right around freezing. We get over to about 3, 4 in the morning. We get closer to sunrise, and this is where you have some big time issues. So let's say we just get all rain. Even in an all rain setup tomorrow, the ground's still wet and the temperature plummets into the upper 20s. We're going to have some ice on Friday morning. So for the worst travel, it's going to be overnight Thursday into Friday morning. So I see a lot of schools already canceling or delaying in the western part of the area. Makes sense because the snow will get there earlier. In the Charlotte area east, it's a tough call because I think, if school gets out at 2:30, 3 o'clock, that's in the peak of the snow, but in some cases, it might be slow going, but most people would be fine. A midday release probably going to be suited well for a lot of people, but I don't know. That's up to the individual school districts. People ask me that question a bazillion times. I can only give you the weather information. The decision makers at the schools, they've got other things besides just the weather to worry about, busing, teachers, parking lots, all kinds of other things. So just check with your school. Stay tuned to your local school. The apps, everybody has them now, and the communication services to give you whether or not schools will be delayed. We'll have them here at NBC Charlotte as well. So you can see, and then it warms up on Friday afternoon back to close to 40 with sunshine. So everything's melting and drying out. So let's go back here just for a second, because I did this yesterday. People seem to enjoy this and kind of understood. I did what's called a grid adjust. So what I did yesterday is I'm going to stop the grid here at 3 o'clock. And what I can do to our guidance here, I'm going to grab the P-type here. I could adjust this by just 25 miles. And so if I adjust this north by 25 miles, you can see what happens to the rain snow line. Let me stop. I'm going to put this right here. A 25-mile jump north brings the rain snow line pretty much where it seems to always be in the Charlotte area, essentially right over I-85. Let's say it goes 30 miles north. That's where it goes, and just for fun, we'll do 50. That's where the rain snow line gets. Let's do the opposite. Let's drop it south 25 miles. That's where it is. So you can see how those just subtle shifts north and south have a big impact on where the actual rain snow line is. I'll go back to 0. Let's do it east and west. Let's do 25 miles east. Doesn't really do a lot. Let's go 25 miles west. And it kind of pulls the heavier snow band, but let's do a little more. Let's pull it 50 miles east. So the east-west movement almost isn't as important as the north-south movement, as you can see in this whole scenario. But what I think is probably more important for this is going to be the sleet-rain mix tomorrow. So, oops, no. Let me pop up the map here. So what I'm going to do is pop up the snowfall map, because this is the other thing everybody wants to see. So I'm going to go wide here, and I'm going to go in close. And I apologize to all the people watching in eastern North Carolina. I won't take a huge amount of time doing that tonight, just because you know, I've got to concentrate a little bit more on the Charlotte area. But that's just a quick glance, I should say, at eastern North Carolina and the mountains west of our mountains, which those are the mountains I cover. Back in here, I think you're looking at 2 to 4, maybe some 4 to 6 inch amounts. But let me go closer to Charlotte just to kind of show you what I'm doing here. So I updated this map this morning because I wanted to do more of what's called a probabilistic forecast. And I'm going to bring myself on camera here. I kind of show what the most likely scenario is, but I want to show you what the highest potential and the lowest potential is. So what I like to call the bust or boom setup. So in the white area, that's a trace to an inch. The bust is all rain to just a trace. We've seen that 3 times this year. The boom in that area is 1 to 3. Now in the blue, which does include Charlotte North, Lincolnton, Salisbury, Statesville, Concord, Kannapolis, Troutman, Mooresville, Huntersville, all those areas, 1 to 2 inches likely. The bust is a trace to a 1/2 inch. And the boom is 2 to 4 inches. So there's a big boom potential there. And there's a little section of 2 to 4 inches, which comes in, and I'll bring this full screen, comes in close to like Albemarle, Stanley County. That boom potential is 4 to 6. And this is really the big question mark. Where does this thing set up? Does this thing shift north 25 miles? Does it shift south? Does it go west or east? Those are all things that could change the forecast here. But I want to show you something else that could have a big impact on the forecast as well. I'm going to bring this back full screen. So one of the things that people sometimes struggle with understanding how snow works is they always think that the temperature at the ground has to be 32. It really doesn't. For snow to fall to the surface, it just has to be cold above our heads, and the warm layer has to be shallow. So what I mean by that is it could be 40 degrees at the ground, but if you go up 1,500 feet or 2,000 feet and the temperature is below freezing from there all the way to the cloud, snowflakes can make it to the ground without melting in time. So it can snow at temperatures above freezing. It's actually more important that the temperature up here is cold than down here. The only winter precipitation where it has to be 32 down here at the ground is freezing rain, because it's actually warmer up here than it is down here. Rain falls all the way to the ground. It doesn't have time to freeze until after it already hits the surface. So we call that freezing rain. It's like taking a hose out on a cold day and spraying everything. That's what freezing rain is. If the raindrops freeze on the way down and turn into an ice pellet, that's what we call sleet. And in that case, that could happen tomorrow as well. And in that scenario, what happens is a small pocket of warm air develops up in the mid-levels around 5,000 to 6,000 feet. The snowflake melts, goes back into a cold layer, refreezes into an ice pellet, and then is able to make it to the ground. So what happens in that scenario is that reduces the snowfall, but gives us sleet. And I'll tell you what, sleet is honestly, it's horrible, first of all, if you're a snow lover, because it kind of messes up with your snow totals, but it also accumulates much quicker on the road surfaces. Because it's ice and it's solid, it doesn't melt as quick. It's not fluffy and light that melts on contact with warm ground. It actually will bounce around and sit on the ground for a while before it melts. Now, in another scenario, if this turns to all rain tomorrow, it's not going to be because the ground temperature is that warm. It's going to be because of this. it's going to be because this warm layer is just too thick, and the snowflakes had more time to melt before they reached the ground. So that warm nose, we call it sometimes, can be really strong in there and it causes the snow to melt. So this layer is really difficult to forecast. You can see the difference between a 5,000 foot warm layer and a 3,300 foot level is not very much. Those small nuances can be all the difference in the world on whether or not you're going to get rain, snow, or sleet. So that makes it incredibly difficult for tomorrow, to see how much snow we're actually going to get. The other concern I have is the refreeze going into Friday morning. We talked a lot about that earlier. Even though these are the soil temperatures right now, so these are about 4 inches deep, the soil temperatures here in the Western Carolinas. I don't have more of these because these come from a lot of the ag extension, so these are a lot of rural spots because that's where they actually do the soil temperatures. You've got some 40s in the mountains, low 50s, and these will probably drop a little bit tonight. These were at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And as it rains and snows tomorrow, these will drop as well. So yeah, the ground temperature is warm, but here's the thing. If you're over a bridge or overpass or anything that's elevated roadway, you got to remember that the ground might be 50 here, but when you go over that bridge or overpass, when the air temperature gets close to freezing, that air temperature actually surrounds the road surface, and these roads can freeze quickly because they don't have the benefit of that warm ground keeping the road surface warm. So what happens is, in these scenarios, the bridge will freeze up, and you'll be driving on wet roads, you'll come to a bridge, and then all of a sudden, you'll see ice on there, and the worst thing you do is jerk the wheel or slam the brakes. What I do when I come to a bridge in a situation like that, let off the gas, coast straight, don't turn the wheel. Just coast over the bridge, and when you get to the other side, then you can slow down or pull over, do whatever. But coast over these bridges. The only time you need to slam your brakes on is if there's something in front of you. So that's a big problem for going into Friday morning because everything is going to get iced up. So before I leave you, let me show you my weather timing graphic again, just to give you a heads up. That's a bright graphic on this screen. Let me put it up there. It's a lot easier to see. So you can see the timing of this. So if you're planning for tomorrow, again, no snow in the morning. Please don't blow up my Twitter feed and my Facebook page and my Instagram. I'll still get them, even though I say this. I can see it already. Where's the snow? I thought you guys said it was going to snow today. Well, we did. We said it's going to start in the afternoon. Don't tell me at 9 o'clock in the morning it's supposed to be snowing. It's not here yet. 1 to 3 inches with sleet mixing in. And again, as I emphasized, there's potential there that, if this mixes more or less, it could be more or less snow. But look at the hazardous travel. Gets worse as the night goes on tomorrow. So even after the snow stops up here, the road conditions actually get worse as we go into the overnight conditions. So Friday morning is going to be the dicey setup. So if you're looking for potentially more widespread delays or closures, I think Thursday night and Friday morning more so than tomorrow. But again, I don't make those decisions. That is totally up to each school district on their own. So I'm going to go back to a graphic here that I was showing earlier. And I like showing this just to show you what the guidance is. Again, these are the tools that I use to forecast the snow amounts. These are all the guidance we use. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 models that I primarily look at. I do look at other ones. I'm going to turn off my camera so it doesn't block the view. But if you look carefully on here, these are the snowfall totals. This does not include melting. In some cases, does not include mixing and does not include compaction. It is using a 10-to-1 liquid to snowfall ratio, so all those take those things in consideration. But notice most of the snow starts right there at noon, but it's really in that 3 to 6 time frame we see it. And as we go into Friday morning, the final totals here, let's see, we'll stop it about right here. About midnight, range from as low as 0.8, which is just under an inch, to as high as 3.3. The average here is basically 1 to 2 inches. So, just to look at the tools we have, you kind of get the idea, that we're looking at pretty much 1 to 2 inches if everything works out right. If we see more mixing or less mixing, then we're going to have, more of an issue. So I just got, actually, as I was saying this, I just got the text message from my kids' school that they are dismissing at 12 o'clock tomorrow. So my kids do go to school in Charlotte. They go to a charter school. So there you go. Just as I said, a lot of schools are going to dismiss. Maybe they are watching this Facebook Live. Who knows? But yeah, so now we're starting to get these delays or closures in the afternoon. I said delays, early dismissals, I should say. So again, I'll go back to the snowfall map just to give you another look at it. That's what I'm thinking right now. And I think the concern for a lot of schools tomorrow may not be so much the snow. It might be the human factor here. Because as I've seen in the past, people wake up in the morning, it's not snowing, everybody goes to work. Schools go to school. Starts snowing at lunchtime. You know, the roads are fine, but everyone sees those giant white snowflakes falling and people freak. They all leave work and school at the exact same time. And if you've been anywhere where everybody leaves at the exact same time in a city like Charlotte or a city like Statesville or Hickory or any one of our cities in our area, the roads get clogged regardless of what the road conditions are. I remember the May race one time up at the Speedway got called because of rain. And normally NASCAR events, there's a lot of traffic issues. But when everybody in that place leaves at the exact same time instead of staggered throughout the end of the race, it was crazy. We sat in our car for 2 hours. So I think a lot of schools are thinking of that, like, hey, if everyone leaves at the same time, we may just not want people stuck in traffic. So something to consider tomorrow. If you can, stagger your delays and your dismissals in the afternoon early. I'd say delays. I'm saying early dismissals. And if your work, is going to give you the day off, maybe stagger those a little bit. Let's not get everyone leaving at the exact same time because that causes more chaos than the actual snow. Of course, tonight at 11, I'm going to pour over some more data. We're going to get another run here of most of our guidance, see if there's anything shifting. But honestly, right now, I spend a lot of time looking at what's happening currently with the system. And one of the things I do quite often in these setups is because now that I can see, I will look to see where the rain is now, where this system is, and where the temperature is. Start looking at the guidance. Which guidance has these things in the right location now? I would probably tend to look at those a little bit more, those tools a little bit better than other tools. If I look at a model and it shows this in the right place, and has the temperature in Charlotte pretty close to where it's supposed to be at 10 or 11 o'clock tonight, then I might say, hey, this model's handling things a little bit better. So that's the kind of process I'll go through tonight at 11 o'clock. The snow meter, and I forgot to show it. Earlier I did, but I didn't show it briefly. I'm going to keep it at a 3 right now, mainly because there's a lot of uncertainty. And buy bread and milk, you don't really need to buy bread and milk. That's just for fun. And just to show you where this thing goes, this is the whole scale. Goes all the way up to buy a shovel. So buy a sled, Charlotte closes. Bread and milk is 3 through 5, so we're kind of at a 3 right now. Hope that helps you prepare tonight. And again, I'll see you tonight at 11 on WCNC Charlotte. I will try to go back through the comments and answer as many as I can. I promise you I can't get to them all because probably won't get to them all. There's 600 comments right now, so I probably will not get to all those, but I will do the best I can. If you're looking for updates, I will do a vlog tomorrow morning, probably first thing in the morning. I will be on the air here on WCNC at noon tomorrow and probably on all afternoon. So we'll be here covering it for you. So if you're heading home early tomorrow, if your kids don't have school, they can watch us on the live stream, watch us online, or watch us on air, or get a good book. Biggest thing I would want is activities tomorrow. I don't really need bread and milk. I need stuff for my kids to do at home, like a lot of you. So hope you have a great night, everybody. I'll see you tonight at 11.